What is up, my people? Welcome back to another episode of Scary Sundays, coming to you live from Connecticut, my parents' house, where I'm currently staying. And the topic of today's video is something that I'm sure we've all experienced when spending extended periods of time with our family. And that is this idea, and this is a contrarian belief that I've been playing around with a few of my friends. Basically, something that I believe to be true that I don't actually think most of society believes to be true. So I'm very curious to hear what you guys have to say about this, what you think about it, if you agree or if you disagree. But the belief is that all psychological pain that someone quote unquote causes us ultimately is always our responsibility. Physical pain that someone causes us obviously is not our responsibility. Like if someone comes and, punches you in the stomach, that's their fault pretty clearly. But I hold the belief that regardless of what someone says to try to psychologically or does to try to psychologically injure us, it's always ultimately our responsibility, the amount of suffering that we feel because of that. And this is a very difficult thing to take on board because it really challenges a lot of our notions of fairness and how we feel like we should be treated. But partially, there's kind of two reasons that I believe this to be true. One is that I just think it's objectively true, based on my experience with meditation and just my own experiential understanding that I am actually always in control of how I respond to a situation or how I respond to somebody. So there's that, but also I think it's just more skillful to believe that. It puts me in a more empowering position, to be in the position that no matter what someone says to me, no matter how cruel it might appear to me, it's always my decision to try to take it in a way where I'm taking full responsibility for how I'm showing up emotionally as a response. And this is obviously a very deep, difficult lifelong practice, especially in relationship with people that have known you your whole life and, know all your buttons to push and are experts at triggering you, which is for most of us, our families. But I found that taking full responsibility for how I feel, which I don't always do perfectly, but always remembering that it's my decision. And if I'm going to choose to be offended by something that someone says or does, then that's still my choice. It's still my choice to be offended. Like I can still choose to step out of the paradigm where that's a problem. And this is very difficult. Like I said, it's an ongoing practice. And the reason it's on my mind is because, family stuff, right? Like we all go through. But I've noticed that it puts the power back in my hands to always be in the position of, okay, I'm the one who's deciding how I choose to process this. And it doesn't mean that you just let people walk all over you or don't set boundaries. If anything, I think it empowers you to more clearly set boundaries, because when you take the power back into your hands, then you're getting yourself in the habit of figuring out how you can actually respond and what you can actually do to create situations where you minimize other people being able to inflict psychological suffering onto you. There I go again, catching myself. You minimize situations where you perceive other people's actions as inflicting psychological suffering on you. And so that's kind of what I've been playing with this week. And I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. Like I said, I think this is a pretty extreme viewpoint, but I purposefully am speaking about it in very binary terms because I do think that it's one of those things where it's just more skillful and effective and empowering to believe that 100% of the time it's our responsibility to manage our emotions. And maybe that means removing ourselves from the situation. Maybe that means setting boundaries on how much time we spend with certain people or how we engage with them or what subjects we talk about with them. But ultimately, giving ourselves that power and that choice back, I think, is how we can most be empowered in situations that otherwise we would feel victimized by. Like, oh, why? Like, then you get into this mode of trying to change other people, which is just a very disempowering place to be in. And I'm speaking from experience because I've been there many times, both with in family stuff, but also in relationships and friendships and work situations. So yeah, that's the scary Sunday for today is just that's what's been coming up for me. And I've been noticing it's a difficult practice, but just in the moment when you get triggered, just taking a moment with yourself and realizing, okay, what about this situation is triggering me? And what can I do to minimize the amount of times that this kind of situation happens? What boundaries can I set with myself and with the environment around me and the people around me? And then also, how can I learn more and be curious about why this is triggering me so much, and where, what part of me, maybe it's a deep childhood part of me that is getting triggered because there's a story I'm telling myself that, I'm not worthy of love in this situation or that situation. And this present moment is now triggering that same part of me. So what story am I telling myself that I can start to unwind by giving myself love in those moments that I get triggered? And when we start to look at it this way, then every time we get triggered actually becomes a beautiful opportunity to give ourselves the love that we're basically outsourcing to the situation or person around us. That's the only reason we get triggered, is because some expectation we had of how someone was supposed to treat us wasn't met. And so it's a beautiful opportunity to remember that um, that's not that person's job at the end of the day. Like, they're just another human being that's responding to that's acting based on their own inadequacies and faults and insecurities. They're just another imperfect human doing their best. And it's a beautiful opportunity to remind ourselves not to place that expectation on anybody else. So that's the scary Sunday for today. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on this contrarian belief. And I say contrarian because, like, I feel like on one level, most people would probably agree with this, but it's one thing to intellectually understand it, and it's another thing to really be embodying and acting it and living it, which is something that I'm not perfect at, but I'm trying to do more and more. So let me know what you guys think, and have an amazing week. Peace.